I could not find this. I had the one from Friday, but I couldn't find today's.
No, this one is a lot more interactive.
No, this isn't right.
I'm not sure the answers to the questions.
What's the situation?
I have the,
I know.
oh, you know what, I had to go,
Oh, these were the revised minutes.
I had to go, this is why I wanted to do this. This is why it's coming out. Thank you.
The answers.
The series budget question and support.
Because that one had a lot of questions.
Reach out.
I've already reviewed them, but it's just nice to have them.
This is their renewal. 546. Okay, but it's just counts 150 feet. Robert's gonna be a few minutes late, you got me saying, you know?
It's the room, chair, vice chair.
Because of his work, he didn't get off work till.
Oh, no, it's
About 6:15.
plus the lay members. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready, Nick.
You have to be a member of the meeting to be the chair. You have a meeting outside of the budget. Thanks, everybody, for coming to the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee agenda, May 20th, 2025. Let's pledge allegiance again, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Okay, well, the first item of business is to accept a motion for a chair and a vice chair. I'm entertaining any motions for Urban Renewal Budget Committee Agenda Chair. Nobody's gonna motion? I'm not doing this myself. Councilor Castillo, thank you.
I would like to nominate Shelley Clark.
Weird. Is there any other motions?
I'll second his nomination.
Second is nomination. All right, all those in favor of Shelley Clark as the chair? All those opposed? Shelley Clark. All right, and then I need to get a vice chair in case somebody, Shelley, falls ill all of a sudden and takes off. Dave?
I move that we select Derek Isaacson as the vice chair.
Do I have a second? Councilor Kent seconds the motion. All those in favor of Derek as the chair? All those in favor, same sign? Everybody says yes. Okay, I'm gonna pass this off to Shelley.
All right. All right, and this is a hefty gavel. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. All right, so thank you, Mayor. Having gone through agenda item number 1 and number 2, so we've elected a chair and a vice chair. Next order of business is to approve budget committee meeting minutes. And so I know that those have been sent out. Has everyone had a chance to review those meeting minutes?
Yes.
All right. Any amendments or adjustments to those meeting minutes? I will say I do have an amendment to the meeting minutes. I shared this information a little bit earlier, so I think this is already captured. The city councilor named Shelley Clark was not present on the attendee list initially, and so I would appreciate if I was listed as attending as a councilor at the time.
Can do, right, Caitlin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was listed later that I was making motions, so I think it's reasonable to assume that I was present, but just wanted to make sure that that was accurate. All right. Any other amendments? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Budget Committee meeting minutes as amended.
So move. Derek?
Moved by Member Isaacson. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Morris. All right, any other discussion? All right, we will move into a vote. So all of those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, all opposed, although that would be mathematically difficult. All right, by unanimous vote, that passes 13-0. Moving into item number 4, receiving public comment on the proposed budget. And so at this time, do we have anyone who has submitted a form for public commentary? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into item number 5, which is receiving the budget message, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Director Piper.
Thank you, Chair Clark and members of the Budget Committee. We'll start with the budget message on page 4 of the Creswell Urban Renewal Agency 2025-2026 budget. Honorable Chairperson, Budget Committee, members and citizens of Creswell, the attached proposed budget is for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026. The Creswell Urban Renewal Agency is the only urban renewal district in the city of Creswell. It is overseen by the members of the City Council. The Creswell Urban Renewal Agency was enacted through ordinance of the City Council in August of 2018. With the objective of eliminating blight and its influences, revitalizing Creswell through attracting new private investment and enhancing the existing private and public investment in the area. Urban renewal districts are one of the most utilized economic development tools in Oregon. As a tax increment finance tool, urban renewal can be hard to understand. However, the core concept of urban renewal is simple. Urban renewal takes a small portion of the appreciated value of the property in a given area and invests it in projects that are expected to increase the overall value of the district over time. Again, eliminate blight and stimulate investment. Oregon's experience with urban renewal suggests that this strategy has been generally successful around the state. Strategic investment in key public infrastructure projects is a traditional role for urban renewal funds. The investment in these projects is meant to remove barriers for development or spur the economy so that blight is removed and private investment will follow. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 reflects the continued collection of tax increment. Increment value of the urban renewal district dropped approximately $2 million, 3.8%, possibly due to the sewer moratorium. However, increment value did not drop below 2023 levels and is expected to grow in 2026 with the development of McDonald's. Debt service payments will continue to be made in fiscal year 2025-26 to the City of Creswell's General Fund for the purchase of right-of-way in fiscal year 2022-2023. The right-of-way purchase is part of a plan to construct a new roadway as a minor collector from the I-5 southbound ramps terminus. The Creswell Urban Renewal Agency will continue to pay back the debt service over 10 years using property tax increment revenues. Additionally, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 includes contractual services for engineering to begin development of Mazama Boulevard into the industrial properties to be served by the I-5 southbound terminus. In the coming years, additional debt service will be taken out to build the infrastructure through the right-of-way leading into the industrial lands formerly known as Bald Knob. As the new roadway has been the primary focus of the Creswell Urban Renewal Agency, the agency members may still consider other strategic revitalization partnerships as they present themselves. We look forward to the review of the proposed budget and any questions that you have. Sincerely, myself and Spencer. There's some pages, excerpt from the actual urban renewal plan. Pages 5 through 7 actually come from that plan. and kind of detail some of the projects that were developed in that planning document. On page 8 is the budget itself. It's a one-page budget. It's pretty straightforward. It's directly relates to one activity, and that is to revitalize the industrial lands that are in the urban renewal plan. In the fiscal year 25-26, as I mentioned, there are some contractual services for engineering so that the Mazama Boulevard Road can start to get some traction. I understand that we are under a moratorium currently with the sewer, but hopefully we resolve that issue in the coming years and simultaneously have development ready to go into play in that industrial zone that was formerly known as Bald Knob. Are there any questions from the committee?
All right, the floor is open for questions. You have a question? Member Isaacson.
Is it on? There we go. I think this was maybe asked and answered in the previous meeting, but as far as the sewer infrastructure, these items that are all listed on here, these are not, we're not expanding the sewer infrastructure, we're just making repairs to it under item B there in the urban renewal projects. Because we're looking to address these right now as far as capacity issues and
These projects have not come up as a project in the near future.
I guess my question to ask further is, are these the same limitations that the moratorium, the sewer moratorium has?
That'd be a question for Cliff. I don't believe so, as long as there is existing sewer.
If they're a new sewer that is being proposed, they are limited under the moratorium. If they're existing sewers, they are limited to connections. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was what I was assuming and looking at those. So these would be projects we'd be looking to jump into soon.
Not soon, though.
Not soon.
Yes, the urban renewal plan is a 20-year plan.
Yeah.
And so it's over the next 2 decades that these will be implemented. So, and hopefully within a shorter time period than that, the sewer issues will be resolved. That won't create the same sorts of constraints that the city's currently facing.
I got just a quick correction on the roll call. Robert Jackson is here, and Cameron Burke is not here, so I want to make sure I get that on the minutes. Thank you. Sorry I missed that.
Other questions? Going once. Going twice. All right, seeing no other questions, we'll now move to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the discussion of the proposed 2025-2026 Urban Renewal Agency budget. Floor is open for discussion. Discussion is always helpful to help inform future us's, right? Future budget committees and urban renewal agencies. So I would encourage discussion if we've got it.
Yeah, it's pretty visual. I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right, so going once, going twice. All right, so seeing no discussion proposed on the 2025-2026 Urban Renewal Agency budget, I would now move to approve or not the 2025-2026 budget. Councilor Kent.
I move to approve the budget for the Creswell Urban Renewal Agency for the 2025 to 2026 fiscal year, as presented.
All right, so there is a motion on the table to approve the budget, the Urban Renewal Agency budget for the 2025-2026. Is there a second? All right, seconded by Mayor Smith. All right, any further discussion before we move to a vote? Okay, seeing no other discussion, we're going to move to a vote. So all those in favor of the motion on the table, please raise your hands. All right, and again, mathematically very difficult, but I'll still ask for nay votes. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously by a vote of 13-0. All right, so item number 8 on the agenda is a motion to approve or not approve taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Member Strand?
I move to approve the collection of the maximum amount of funds from Division of Taxes under Article 1C, Article 9 of the Oregon Constitution in accordance with the approved Creswell Urban Renewal Agency Plan and as provided in ORS 457.2420, (1) to be certified by the tax assessor.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve the taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year as read by Member Stram. Is there a second? All right, seconded by Councilor Castillo. All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, go ahead and raise your hand in approvals. All right, and all those in opposition, again, very mathematically difficult. All right, by a motion, or by a vote of 13-0, that motion to approve taxes is collected. And moving on to item number 9 is adjournment. And so we are adjourned, the Urban Renewal Agency is adjourned.
Good job.
That's what you said.
It's like you've done this before. It's like, I know.
I knew you'd do a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fruit
I just
basket coming your way.
I just wanted to trick or treat. Do we want to move you over, or do you, okay, you're over there? I will. All right. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no worries. Did you want me to? Is there? I say it's vice chair, I don't.
Oh, you have,
Good evening and welcome to the Creswell Budget Committee meeting, May 20, 2025. As we've already had the Pledge of Allegiance one time, we will not repeat that. We will do a roll call though for the Budget Committee. So I will read the names and simply say here or I. Mayor Nick Smith.
Here.
Councilor Alonso Castillo.
Here.
Councilor Stacy Holt.
Here.
Councilor Clark Kent.
Aye.
Councilor Mark Creamer.
Here.
Councilor Joan Morris.
Here.
Councilor Alan Dukes.
Here.
Citizen Dave Stram. Here. Citizen Robert Jackson.
Here.
Citizen Derek Isaacson.
Here.
Citizen Christina Corsi.
Here.
Citizen Cameron Burke. Is Cameron's an excused absence? I was not aware.
I did not get an email.
All right, Cameron Burke is unexcused absence. Citizen Joshua Johnson.
Here.
Citizen Shelley Clark.
Here.
All right, so first we're going to go on to the minutes, item number 2. So you may have noticed that we're approving the May 7th, 2024 minutes. At the last meeting, we approved the May 21st from a year ago. So they were in a backwards order. And next year, the Budget Committee will approve both sets of minutes from this meeting at the first meeting. So, are there any corrections to the minutes that need to be made? If not, then I am taking a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Citizen Isaacson,
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second from Shelley Clark. All right, any further discussion of the minutes? All right, Budget Committee will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So before we go any further, I think, Spencer, you had some comments that you wanted to make tonight, and I think I went right past that. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jim and I were talking about the budget process today, and what my recommendation was to Jim, because I understood from a discussion earlier, it got a little convoluted in kind of the budget approval processes from a meeting with the mayor and council president in the past. But what, as Jim goes through the questions and answers, and as the council considers any potential changes to the proposed budget, it's probably clearest to actually have someone make a motion to make a change at that point. If that's supported, then there's discussion on the change, and then if the motion passes, that change would be made to the proposed budget. If the motion doesn't pass, it wouldn't be modified. And so I think it'll be clear if we go through as you're reviewing these issues. If anyone wants to make a motion on a change, it'd be appropriate for them to do so, and deal with that as you work your way through the any potential changes to the proposed budget.
So as we're moving through, if there's a motion made and a second, then we will proceed from there to have discussion of the motion. Motions can be amended. And I'm going to read just a little clip from this book here about that, because for somebody on the Citizens Committee maybe haven't been put through the process of making a motion, seconding it, amending the motion, so we're going to talk about that briefly. One of the other things I wanted to highlight tonight, and this is the book that the City Council uses, and it governs all of our meetings. One of the important things this book talks about is everyone has a chance to speak once before anyone speaks twice. So, to me, the spirit of that is that there's 14 members here, we all have one vote, we all have our own voice, and we didn't get appointed to be silent. That doesn't mean you have to speak, but I'm going to really encourage tonight that as we work through the budget, particularly the questions and the discussion of the questions, that you are encouraged to speak. So if someone raises their hand, Shelley, you're the vice chair of this committee, I'm going to ask you to help me to keep track of the order of hands goes up. But once your hand goes up, if you see with my eyes I've acknowledged you, you can take your hand down. If there's multiple hands up, so that we can continue who's ever speaking, and then we'll move along the order of hands that went up. If we make a motion and amendment and we begin doing some amendments between Caitlin and Shelley, keep track of those, okay? Because that's going to be important. So on the amending of a motion is made simply by raising your hand and saying, I move, and then you state what the motion is, what you move. Then I will ask if there's a second to that motion. Motions can then be amended. And here's a little clip on the amending of motions, because the City Council went through this quite in depth a few years ago. And thanks to Councilor Holt, we really paid a lot of attention to this, didn't we, when we covered that. Amending a motion. To amend a motion means to change a motion or improve it because you've come up with a better idea. This is from page 46 in the book. Amendments must be germane, which means relevant or related. If there's a question, the presider decides whether an amendment is germane or not. If there's a challenge to this question, the group has the final say. Amendments need a second, can be debated, can also be amendment. So you can amend an amendment. Takes a majority vote to pass. Important points about amendments. Once a motion has been amended, it can be amended again if the proposed amendment applies to another aspect of the motion. So that may come up tonight. If someone makes a motion, someone wants to amend the motion, but the amendment needs to, in some way, alter the motion. Amendments cannot negate the original motion or convert one parliamentary motion into another. So we will work through this tonight, and hopefully everything will go wonderfully and smooth. Okay? All right, so we go to item number 3, public comment on the proposed budget and possible uses of state revenue sharing funds. Do we have any forms that have been turned in, Caitlin? Okay, so if any member of the public wishes to speak about the budget, proposed budget, or uses of state revenue sharing funds. Right now is your opportunity to fill out a form, bring it to Caitlin. I'm gonna get just a, okay, I see no members of the public wishing to speak. So then we move to item number 4, which is the public hearing. This is a public hearing on possible uses of state revenue sharing funds. The City of Creswell will conduct a public hearing on the possible uses of state revenue sharing funds in the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. These funds are proposed to be used for work on the comprehensive plan update, contractual services economic development, and community contributions for nonprofit emergency needs, all appropriated in the general fund. So I'll open the public hearing. If you wish to speak during the public hearing, again, there's a form in the back. Is that correct, Caitlin?
Or they can just come up and.
If you wish to speak during the public hearing about the use of state revenue sharing funds, please come to the microphone and I'll acknowledge you. So Shelley, would you time for 1 minute? And we will open the public hearing. We will go as long as we need to, but if you haven't come up within a minute, we close the public hearing. Public hearing is now open.
Just my name.
Okay, so we don't have a microphone there, do we?
Okay, great, I'll just try to.
You really tell us your name and then go ahead.
My name's Amy Surziga. I am not a resident of the city of Creswell, just so everybody is clear. I live outside the city limits, but I'm here on behalf of the museum, and you guys, as part of the budget committee, saw the proposal that the museum made, and I feel like Mr. Stram was very much encouraging maybe some additional comments on that. I'll tell you that I have only been a part of the museum for a year, but it is such a valuable resource, and I know we talked to Mayor Smith last week, or 2 weeks ago, about the need for everybody to come and visit. I think we go by it so many times, maybe in our course of the day, we don't realize that it's there, and this is one of the oldest buildings in our town. There's a lot of history there that doesn't belong to the museum. I mean, it's history that came before all of us. And small towns in Oregon are the better for having their own site museum, and there's a value to that. Our museum is, we're fortunate to have it, that the people who came before saw the value of raising money to buy it and then to maintain it. But it's a very small group of volunteers. It's completely volunteer run. There are no paid staff. There's never been paid staff. And it is, and we are getting, I am one of the youngest, and I am not that young. So I'm happy to admit. So it is something that we anticipate, however the process goes for putting this new roof on, because it will happen, it has to happen, or that building will suffer greatly. It's already, at a stage where it's in desperate need. We will do as much as we can personally in hands-on kind of cleanup and facilitation. There's only one person on our board who is actually in the line of construction, and he had a hip replacement, so he's not going to be up on any roofs anytime soon. But we do have two very knowledgeable people who would work directly with the contractors that we end up securing to do this. It's a big job. It's a very interesting roof. It's in a very central part of town. There's lots of safety measures that have to go into place to make sure that roof job is done well and done quickly, so that the community does not suffer from an ongoing disruption. And that's our plan. And so maybe there's a question about additional places that we are looking for funds. We've applied to Weyerhaeuser for a grant, but have not heard information back there. Banner Bank for a grant, have not heard back from that yet. I am the one who's kind of taken the bull by the horns with this, and I was gone for 3 weeks on a lovely trip to Ireland. So when you saw me at the last meeting, I had just come back, so I am now researching and getting ourselves into the next phases of grants that we think we have a chance to attempt at. As many of you know, they take a long time. It's not my profession, but I'm willing to give it the old college try, and we'll see what we can garner from it. You guys were easy. All I needed to do was write a memo. That was so nice, so appreciate that. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents about our request for a contribution to the roof. Thank you.
Okay. Keep the public hearing open for a short time longer.
It has been a minute.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. We move on to item number 5, discussion of proposed 2025-2026 budget. So Jim, how do you want to proceed with this?
In previous years, we've just gone over the questions and answers. I really appreciate everyone's questions. They're really pertinent to the budget. In some cases, they remind me of, oh yeah, I should have mentioned that in the budget message. Little things that, there's multiple pages in this budget, as you can see, and multiple line items, and it's good to have these refreshers. So I really appreciate the challenge of these questions and the opportunity to respond. I will say that Spencer was a great help in putting this together as well. So it's not all me. And also department heads also responded where I didn't know the details. I had to get more details, so I have to give them kudos as well. Mayor Stram, the first question that was asked at the last budget committee meeting was about the COLA for fiscal year 25-26 and how we ended up on 3%. We looked at the CPI Western region, which is commonly used to kind of get a pulse for what's going on in the economy. We used to have the one in Portland. They discontinued the Portland CPI, but that's okay because everything about Portland is off for this region, right? So the Western region is kind of generic. We also learned about this labor CPI that deals strictly in labor, but as we see, everybody was playing catch up last year, so we've got some pretty high numbers there for adjustments. The U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics Q4 or quarter 4 that they published in January, when we started putting the budget together, it showed a 12-month change for civilian workers of 3.8% and private industry 3.7%, state and local government at 4.5%. And like I said, it just focused on the cost of employees. It didn't factor in all the other things that are in the economy, like consumer goods and then we looked at, we did a survey, and I actually have to admit that I forgot about the survey, and Spencer asked me to do the survey after the meeting, and I said, oh yeah, I did that survey. And so I wish I'd put that in the budget message as well, so you could see that we did a comparable with others in our market to kind of be competitive and retain employees. And then the last thing we did, so that average came out to 3.17%. Harrisburg, they did a 2.5, but they also did a market rate adjustment that year too. So some people got very much more than 2.5%. Springfield was the same thing, and they also, when I talked to the finance director for Springfield, fire and police were getting very high COLAs, and they had to actually break those over multiple years because they were like 17%. So on the second page of the Q&A, we also wanted to look at where we're at. We've been doing these COLAs for the last 4 years, and based on where the Western region has gone over the last 4 years at 19.6% collectively, Creswell's collectively raised, had a cost of living adjustment of 15.7%. And salary study is also budgeted for the coming fiscal year, and market adjustments will be considered in the next budget cycle. We didn't want to get behind on that adjustment and then have a rather large adjustment coming. And we also considered what a 0.5% adjustment in the COLA would equal, and it comes out to $12,000 and $12,460 citywide, or $1,416 in the general fund for the fiscal year. So it was really important, again, to stay competitive, and we saw what our surrounding area was doing for salary increases, and we didn't want to fall behind. And also, we have some pretty hefty training expenses, especially for their public works employees. They have to get licensed to operate the water plant, the sewer plant. And Cliff's here to answer any questions on that. But I know from experience, to get somebody from beginning to licensed to do all these things within the city, it's about $20,000 in training costs. So it's really expensive to lose employees. So I know that we asked for a 3% COLA. It looked like we might see inflation still in this fiscal year before we hit July 1. So we were trying not to get behind there as well. Are there any more questions on the COLA and how we came together and came up with a 3%?
Oh. Any questions?
Just to clarify, Jim, you said 20,000 to train an employee. Were you talking about the city, the treatment operators, or just employees in general?
Just the public works employees in general. They have multiple licenses they have to get to operate as a public works employee.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Joshua?
So if I'm understanding correctly, then part of the consideration here with the COLA adjustment of 3% is that if the cost is $20,000 to train somebody who may be looking to go somewhere else, that this approving of 3% might be more beneficial and more cost effective than simply losing that person and having to spend $20,000 to retain and train a new person.
That's correct.
Understood, thank you.
All right, I had a couple questions. First of all, you talked about market adjustment a time or two. Can you just explain a little bit what you mean by market adjustment and how that, particularly you brought up Harrisburg, how that impacts their COLA and how that relates to what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's a term they used, a lot of people use when they do a salary study. So then part of the salary study is to look at your market, your surrounding market, and what employees are being paid for like job, and kind of figuring out where that medium is between all the cities, and that's usually what the market rate is for an employee.
And then my second question was the 0.5% variance. So if we had a 2.5% COLA versus a 3% COLA, the difference in those two is $12,460 to the total budget or $1,460 to the general budget, general fund alone, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Mayor Smith?
I just got a comment. As an employer, Jim, I do agree with you on COLA. This year, shockingly, I don't have an issue with it. It's a lot cheaper to retain employees, and if you have good employees, you want to pay them rather than going out, and I understand the expense of that. So for this year, I fully admit I do not have a problem with the COLA.
Thank you, Mayor.
Whether you get my vote or not, I don't know, but.
That's fair.
Any other questions? All right, Jim, continue.
All right, there was a question at the last budget meeting about the extent of the bridge at Garden Lake Park. And I got word back from Cliff that it's 150 foot long and that they'll have to have abutments at both sides of the trails so to connect them.
All right, any questions? Citizens, have any questions? Joshua?
Just as a quick reminder for everybody, what was the total cost of the engineering for this 150-foot bridge?
$25,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Castillo?
It's a very important question. Will children be able to fish off that bridge? That's a real question.
That is a good question. Maybe Cliff can.
I think it'd probably be part of the design of the bridge, whether that would be something built
It'd
into
be
it or not.
designed to have like a little nook in it to fish off from. Where it's going to cross is pretty shallow, so I don't know if that's an area that's really fishable. Nobody really fishes over there, but it could be designed to have an area in it.
Thank you.
Are there edible fish in there?
Mr. Isaacson?
Yeah, just a comment on that too. I mean, even if there's not fishing off it, it's always nice to have little butouts that people want to stop and looking so they're not obstructing the pathway of the bridge too. Just they're wanting to take in the beauty of the pond there. Yeah, so.
Councilor Clark?
Yes, I believe I heard one of the members of the public ask if there are edible fish in that, that area, so I would like to ask that officially.
I wouldn't, but.
Let's probably defer to Cliff on that one. Are there edible fish?
Perspective. You can share my whole life, I would not eat one.
Have done a study on the silt that is in the pond and have determined that it has some ill items in there that you would not want to ingest. And so there are signs that say, do not eat the fish. So I haven't tried them, you're welcome to.
Not encouraged.
Kids love to catch them and throw them back.
It's a big part.
Other questions? Shelley?
I was just going to ask, and this might be a question for Cliff. So the cost of the engineering, is that comparable to other projects of a similar size and scope?
We're not sure, to be honest with you. We need to go out and secure an engineering firm that works with bridges. It isn't something we've done a lot of in the past, so that's just kind of a rough budgeting number. We'll try to get some numbers that fall within that budget line and get some pricing. That's just a rough budget number. Just see what we can get with that.
Any questions from the committee? Any more? Councilor Creamer?
So I just have a question. Is this going to be metal, like diamond plate, or is it going to be like railroad tied?
Now, there's several different types of bridges that we could put in there. One that I've looked at in the past is aluminum, but there's also wood style. It kind of depends on the pricing. The aluminum is the cheapest route. We would have to go out to bid to secure one of those.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so the question, we've already had public comment, period. So I don't believe that during this period we're continuing with public comment. or questions? We're continuing with the information from our budget director, budget officer, and council discussion. So we'll hold questions from the public. Okay, any further questions, committee, for Jim? All right, continue on, Jim.
All right, the next question was, can the construction to complete City Hall be done in phases so that we don't exceed the $50,000 project limit next fiscal year and for paying prevailing wages under bully rules? This is a great question. I answered no to this question, but it's got layers to it. Bully could look at it and go, you phase this in order to not do the prevailing wages, and they could go back and retroactively ask the contractors to pay back their employees. And then, of course, we could be in trouble with fines or civil or criminal liability. There are some exceptions, but it has more to do with solar energy installation on public property or affordable housing. Now, I say that, but if we really intend to just build one office, and I discussed this with Spencer, that could be an exception. If that truly is we just need one office, we don't need to build the whole space out. And we don't see, adding more offices in the near future. It may be 4 or 5 years before we get to that time. Then, we'd have a pretty good case for just doing a section of it. The only issue here, and I checked in with Cliff because I remember the architect looking at the space and him saying that we don't have cooling and heating in that space, is that we'd have to deal with the HVAC, and I believe he said that we have to put a unit on the roof, which could be pretty expensive. And I think, Cliff, we're probably looking between that and building an office. Yeah, we would go over the 50,000, I believe.
The rooftop units are over $20,000 and they have to be craned on, so they're fairly expensive.
Yeah. We can't do a ductless. I mean, a package unit like that, yeah, easily 25 grand. I mean, a crane's gonna cost you $8,000 to rent for the day.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get like a ductless.
I don't know that space well enough to, I mean, you've got the wall with the window, and then you've got the wall that comes into the walkway out here just outside the elevator. I don't know of an area where you could get a ductless in there.
Being second story, I don't think you can because you have to have the unit outside and it has to drain. I think it has to be a rooftop unit. We can check farther into that to make sure if we're looking at just one office, we can have a heating, air conditioning business come in and let us know.
Yeah. The other concern we had by kind of piecemealing it is that we're going to have some mobilization, demobilization costs, but also the design. We wouldn't want to build something and have to totally rework it. Like, we come in 5 years later and want to finish the rest of it or another portion of it, and they have to go back in and do electrical or plumbing or something. That'd be challenging.
Build it as the idea, you'll eventually build it out though. I mean, people do that every day.
Yeah.
Do you know if did you come up with like maybe a dollar figure on what we would save if we were able to do it this way versus just the prevailing wage, is like the current prevailing wage? Because again, if we didn't start construction in a year, that could go up or down.
It really depends on the construction company that bids too. And a lot of the big companies, they pay close to prevailing wage anyways, so there really isn't a savings. I can't speak to the mom and pops. If it's like a sole proprietor, maybe they could do it for quite a bit less. And yeah, yeah, it would be ideal if we could at least get one office space up there. But I don't know if that's gonna be the most cost-effective way to do it.
All right, any, Counselor Holt?
I asked this last time. It's my understanding that that we have one employee that's primarily working from home. Where's her office?
Her office is downstairs.
And so who's using that office?
She is when she's in the office.
Is that gonna change?
That'll be up to the new city manager. That's according to the work from home policy, that's something that's evaluated between their direct reporter, which is the city manager, and the employee, and it has to be reevaluated every 6 months.
Because when I come into the city, I can't think of a time I walked in and seen a full staff ever this year. So are we using all the office space? Why do we need more if we're not utilizing all of it already? I mean, those are questions I have. My other comment is just, I'm really disappointed that the state is allowed to stronghold us and force our hand in these ways. We can't support our small local businesses by giving them city jobs. We are forced to pay wages that our constituents have to pick up the price for. And we only have 2,000 households in Creswell. I hope that the new city manager coming in will have the skill set to think outside of the box and hopefully move us forward in a better way than just being bound to the state rules. We are either a home rule city or we're not. I'd like to start acting like a home rule city. So it's just a comment. Thank you.
Right, we had a hand up from Joshua.
I noticed that the way that this was listed for the expansion is a one-time cost, right? You mentioned that the HVAC would also be a one-time cost. Have we done any research in what the additional costs throughout the course of the year, what the monthly cost would be for, cleaning, for the heating, cooling, and just maintaining that additional space to know what that would look like for the next year's budget?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have not, but it's something I definitely thought about. The O&M costs for a space to serve 5 people when we need one office is of concern to me, for sure. And one other note on this item, the budget is just the appropriation. Before anything's done, it'll go to the council for contract approval and purchase authorization. So yeah, to your point, Councilor Hull, yeah, the new city manager will definitely have a say. And you'll have a say to them as far as whether you approve the project or not. So, again, this is just to appropriate the funds.
Okay.
So, excellent questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Holt and then Counselor Castillo.
I would just follow up that comment with what I have found to be a general rule of thumb is that when a city appropriates funds, it's their intention to get those funds appropriated and used the way they want it, whether there is opposition or not. That's just, so I think this piece is important. I think the appropriation is as important as the decisions made later.
Counselor Castillo?
Sure, obviously this project has been on hold since the building was put up, correct?
Yeah.
So, any idea how much the price of getting that completed has gone up since the beginning?
That's a great question. I do not know. I do know that there are opportune times to construct and there's not opportune times to do construction, and it has to do with inflation and recessionary periods. And this building initially was built during a recession, and it was a good time to purchase or to spend the money to do it. And it was also done with cash, so there was no interest paid on that purchase either. As far as where we're at today, this was built in 2007 or 2010? 2010, I believe. 2009. That was the 100 year.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and I did an index on the dollar going back to 97, and it doubled since 97. So we're probably looking at 60% higher than it was in 2009.
So it'd be pretty safe to say that if we kick the can down the road more and more, that the cost of completing this is just gonna go up and up.
Yeah, that is a definite. That is a definite, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Becker.
Okay, and there are some additional questions we're coming to that also are related to this, so. Unless we have another question right now, we're gonna continue moving along. Joshua?
Just a quick one. Do we have the projection of what additional full-time employees look like in a time frame as to when we're going to be needing to use that space based on current projections?
The hope is to hire somebody we actually have an intern lined up for the 25-26 fiscal year, but it would be the 26-27 with the budget approval at the next budget.
So the idea is that for the 26-27 budget, that there would be a need for a second full-time employee that would need to utilize that space, is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, not a second, but the same position. I'm
The same
sorry,
position.
misunderstood.
And with the one more position that will fill up all of the office space that we currently have here, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
More than fill up. We have somebody working at the front desk while they're going to school. And right now, they're just sharing the front desk space. There isn't an office where they can go do any work without interruption.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Continue on to the next question.
All right, next question is about the Historical Society. They requested $10,000, and will they be, will this reduce the funds allocated to Creswell First? No, actually, Creswell First, as per the prior year budget, and with the addition of another $1,000, will be $23,000 under the community contributions line item in the general fund. And we still have room to accommodate the $10,000 for the roof project for the Historical Society.
Why don't you continue right along, the next one's in the same line.
Yeah, so the next question was, will they apply to Creswell First? And I've talked to Amy, and who you heard tonight, and she said they will likely apply to Creswell First. Creswell First does have a cap on their grants of $2,500. And they are competitive. I know they have not granted everybody a grant who's applied for them.
Okay, any questions along this line? All right, continue on, Jim.
Okay, under the general fund revenues, within the other tax, hotel, motel tax, and telecom, there's $85,000 expectations. Does this include Airbnb and B as well? Yes, yeah, this does include the transit taxes collected from Airbnb. I could go into detail a little bit and explain that the collections of hotel tax is now the directive of the Oregon Department of Revenue. So they collect them and then they remit them. We used to have the county collect them for us and then they would come to us. Now they go from Department of Revenue to the county to the city. Yeah, but they are going after Airbnb. That's been a hot button lately in the talk about TRT.
All right, continue on, Jim.
Last year there was discussion about selling a backhoe, and did that happen? No, we actually we had looked at getting a new backhoe last year. And Cliff's here, he can elaborate on why we decided not to do that. I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, We decided to keep, we have 3 hose. They're in various states of repair. One's like an 86, then we have a 99 and a 2003 or something like that. We were contemplating selling the old one so that we could replace it. Our needs have kind of changed. Digging with a hoe and with all the utilities in the ground anymore is a fairly big liability. And so we've kind of changed space, changed direction, and we feel like we would utilize a smaller back truck to get into some smaller spaces instead of having a backhoe. They're a little bit more money, but they're much safer to use around utilities. And so we feel like we need a couple more years to save for that piece of equipment. So we've moved on from the backhoe line item.
All right, continue on, Jim.
All right.
Question?
What happens to the
Councilor
funds
Holt?
that were appropriated for that?
The funds go back to any fund balance, which then rolls over to beginning fund
Okay.
balance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next question was about grants. I got a lot of questions about grants. There's been a lot of talk about the grants, just because they've been in the news lately. This one was related to state grant. This was the Senate Bill 1530 appropriations from the state. We haven't spent any of it. There was $1 million appropriated to City Creswell. And we were gonna do $200,000 in the current fiscal year we're in right now to pay for the TV scope. We found out that the ARPA funds had to be committed by December 31st. And so if we didn't have and the Treasury sent out some information on what committed means to them. And they wanted things to be contracted, like you have a signed contract, so it takes going through the council and getting approval, and then getting to the contractor and getting the signatures back and forth. Well, we had the TV scoping under contract. So under the engineer's recommendation, we were able to apply the ARPA funds to that and save the $200,000 in that $1 million Senate Bill 1530 grant to do the rest of the work, which is going to be the slip lining of about a 40-block radius downtown. Slip lining seems to be the most cost-effective way to fix the piping. There's a lot of old cement pipes in downtown collecting sewer, and those are cracked and leaking the groundwater into the collection system, which then goes to the plant and just adds to the amount of water that we're having to deal with. So as part of the DEQ MOA, they want us to deal with this issue. It seemed like insult to injury, as we're also have to deal with the wastewater treatment plant as well, and we know the cost of that. But this full $1 million, we plan to apply towards the slip lining. Total project cost for that slip lining project is upwards of like $6 million. So if you look in the capital improvement plan, we got that spread over 3 years, 4 years, I think, in total, just to kind of hopefully find more funding. We have been applying for more of these appropriations. In fact, we just applied to Val Hoyle's office a month ago to hopefully get some more funding for this. So that to do that, we had to talk to our friends at Business Oregon who are monitoring the Senate Bill 1530 appropriations grant, and we got a budget approval to swap it out for the ARPA funds and spend the ARPA funds instead. And on page 70, under the proposed 2025-26 column, the full $100 million is appropriated under grant proceeds. On 71, the proposed 2025-6 column, there is a $1 million capital outlay to be spent on this project. And we are working with the state officials to carry these grant funds into 2025-26. We did kind of kick it off with 2nd Street. We did some slip lining on 2nd Street, so we were able to send them some invoices and show them, hey, we are doing the work. So, and I did get a response back, and they seem to be pleased with that. So again, we're continuing to keep pressure on getting those funds committed. into next fiscal year. Again, I mentioned the project is in total, I mean, we don't know, we gotta bid it out, right? We gotta get actual bids, but our engineers gave us, you know, a $6 million expectation. And on page 84, there's another $1 million proposed to be spent on capital outlay for the slip lining. That's coming out of our capital improvements funds that we've been saving up for. And again, we're gonna have to spread those costs over well into fiscal year 27, 28. So if you look at page 26 and 27 of the CIP, you'll see kind of the timeline there for that project. And again, hopefully we find some grant funds along the way, because that's a lot of money.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick, Hazel, if you can please add into the minutes that Cameron Burke has now joined us. Welcome, Cameron. We're on item number 5 of the agenda, and we're on, I don't think pages are numbered, but we're on question and answers with Jim right now. Okay, Jim, any questions so far? Otherwise, we'll continue with another part of this discussion. Yes, Mr. Isaacson.
Yeah, I have a question. It's not necessarily related to the financial part of it, but maybe, I think I understand what pipe bursting is, where they're sending the thing down and bursting the pipe and inserting a new pipe through there, right? The concrete?
Correct, that's what pipe bursting is.
And the slip lining is?
The slip lining is a fiberglass lining that they fold and pull through the pipe, and then it has some adhesive to it, and they blow it up and heat the inside of it, and it adheres to the wall. And it creates a thick, kind of a hard lining inside the pipe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So the next question is related to the FEMA grant, and that's really been in the headlines recently. It's labeled FEMA Brook grants in the budget. I'll make a correction to that. This is actually a FEMA hazard mitigation grant program. The Brook grant program itself has been pulled. So I had to double check the contracts and make sure that this is an HMGP funded program. Now, that being said, there's also more news about the HMGP that they're considering scaling those back as well. If those are pulled, it does add more thought to the water rates. I'm still pretty confident in our reserves right now. We have been collecting decent reserves in the water funds. The reserves are funded, and the grant funding was just kind of extra icing on the cake. That's where it really was like, okay, we really have to slow down on water rates. In fact, it was recommended that we lower them 5%, and it's still do. Even if they pull this grant, we're still well situated. We don't believe that these projects will be affected because they've already been allocated, but that's not a guarantee. I mean, we got to continue to get these projects done. Most of the projects are done except for the relocation of the main line coming from the water tower, but the anchoring project and the flexible hose connection related to that seismic project, I believe, are pretty close to done, if not
It's
done.
completed.
They're completed, so we're gonna wrap that up and get those grant funding requests in ASAP. And the one concern is the $928,350 that we haven't started that project yet. That's to relocate the main line. But even if we didn't collect those, beginning fund balances is approximately $2 million. And we could defer the transfer to the water capital improvement funds. We're transferring over $500,000 there, almost $550,000 to the water capital improvement fund. And water capital improvement reserves have a beginning fund balance of approximately $3 million. We do have a bucket list of projects that need to get done, but nothing that rises to the level of an emergency. So I think we're in pretty good shape in the water fund still. But excellent question, and definitely a hot topic right now in the news.
Okay, questions from the committee? Kelly?
I'd say not so much of a question, but I just also wanted to share during the Water Rate Advisory Committee, when we met, one of the things we discussed was what would happen if all grants went away tomorrow, right? Would we be prepared for that? And what I heard pretty clearly during that conversation is that we are still in good fiscal position to be able to move forward with our projects, even if all grants went away tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move along? Councilor Castillo?
Since FEMA's on my mind, did we ever receive the reimbursement from FEMA during the ice storm?
We're still working on that. FEMA is not, the F and FEMA isn't for fast. They are, the last time we had the snowstorm, Snowmageddon, it was 5 years to close that grant. And that's no joke.
They wonder why they have a bad rap.
Okay, Jim, continue along.
The next question was when we anticipate building the hangars at the airport. I know this has been a long battle. And I say battle because it all comes down to environmental concerns. We're hoping to build hangars, not this fiscal year or the next fiscal year, because we have to build the underlying infrastructure. We have to build the taxi lanes. And Shelley had to get creative and think outside the box on that one because the NEPA, did I say that right?
Yep.
Yes, did not want more pavement on the ground because the water runoff could affect the salmon downstream, or they weren't sure, so we have to do a study. They couldn't get to the study right away, so, but at the same time, we've got this bipartisan infrastructure law money, or it's now got a different acronym, and Shelley, you can correct me on this, but I still call it the bill money that has to be spent, and it can be spent on this project. But if this project hangs out there too long, we'll lose the funding. So that's when Shelley thought outside the box and said, with the help of our engineers at the airport, we could put in turf for now, you know, and let them do their study, and then we'll pave it after the fact. But we'll get the utilities underground. We'll get a taxi lane in that'll allow us to build hangars. So that's coming 26, 27, because 25, 26. Construction of the underlying infrastructure, 26, 27 would be the time frame that we could build hangars.
Questions? Joshua?
Just to clarify, you said 26, 27?
Yes, to build actual hangars themselves.
But fiscal year 27, 28. I think the hangars are projected 26, 27. I'll double check the CIP.
We'll get 27, 28 here.
Your note says 27, 28.
27, 28, you're right, because we have to get through this project, and yeah, that's when we have them scheduled on the capital improvement plan. I stand corrected. 27, 28 before we can get the funding together to put those hangars in place. We could move it forward, we could move it back. It just depends on how all these other things pan out. I think Shelley and I are really frustrated and tired of waiting, but I'm hoping it'll be sooner than later.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim?
All right, the next question, on 91 indicates the restrooms to be installed in Robin Hughes Park in FY 25-26. Are we hoping to install them in time for 2025 outdoor season? Unfortunately, no. Romac's gonna build the restrooms and deliver them in May of 2026. And we have to get the ground prepped for that project as well and get the utilities installed to connect it.
Questions on that item? All right, continue, Jim.
On pages 47, administrative requirements, what does economic improvement / development refer
You
to?
skipped one, Jim. When will South
Oh,
Second Street?
thank you. Yeah, that's a big one. South Second Street construction is going to begin May, and I believe it's 19th, is that correct?
They moved it back 1 week, 26th.
All right, May 26th,
27th, that's Memorial Day, sorry.
and hopefully get completed in October. Oh, that's right, 26th is Memorial Day, so it will be the 27th. So, and hopefully complete it in October. The whole objective was to start it in May so that we could get it done in one construction season. I think by November we'll start running into rain.
Any questions about that? All right, continue.
All right, on page 47 under administrative requirements, what does economic improvement development or develop refer to under materials and services? Why has this item remained virtually the same every year, or same year after year? Economic improvement development is used to help spur entrepreneurial engagement within Creswell in hopes of turning into new local businesses. And over the past 3 years, there's been an annual contract with Regional Accelerator and Innovation Network, RAIN, Catalyst, of $28,000. RAIN connects rural entrepreneurs to people, programs, physical assets, and capital. And our own Ellen Mull, who is a small business owner here in downtown Creswell, has been working as the venture catalyst here in town.
Derek, question from Derek. Mr. Isaacson.
Yeah, so we're trying to do the quick math, so 70, what is that? Minus 80. Anyways, 28,000 times 3. And is that, we getting a bang for a buck on that? They mentioned there's one entrepreneur here in the area. Just curious about that.
From what I'm hearing, they don't work, Ellen doesn't work with me, she works directly with the city manager. And she's come to the council to put on presentations. From what I understand, she has been pretty encouraging and if not successful at what she's doing for our local entrepreneurs. But I can't speak directly to that.
I just asked because we're asking about dollar amounts for doing the building thing and everything, and if we're going to keep kicking out $28,000 a year for something that's not really getting a direct return on investment. It's just a question I have about that.
No, it's a great question.
Question from Joshua?
So just to piggyback off that, is there information that we can use to contact that person to perhaps give us an outlay of what it is that the money's being used for, what business it's brought into the community, what overall the benefit has been based on the investment that we've been giving them?
I believe they provided an annual report to the council. It hasn't happened during the time I've been here, but my recollection is they do provide an annual report, and those should be something that we can provide.
Okay, this is going to be emailed out for this next year so that we can review it? Okay, excellent, thank you.
I won't be here next year, but Kim will make sure
We'll get it out.
that you get it, so.
Thanks for kicking in on the hotel funds, though.
Yeah, I've helped with the room tax, so.
Yes. All right, I'm just writing a quick note.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Yes.
So are we committed to those funds for this next year already? I mean, it's in this budget, right? Are we committed to that organization for it?
It's under my, it's my understanding that's annual, so that should come to the council for approval before I believe, actually, no, that's under the spending limit.
Yeah, I think if council wants a report on that, and, you know, the budget committee could suggest that they get a report before they renew, you know, that would certainly be inappropriate, because again, you're dealing with the appropriation at this point. The actual contract in the next year installment is something council could request a report before they make that payment.
Thank you.
And Jim, I believe, because those reports are given annually, so Joshua, I think that you could probably through Jim, send an email and request the most recent report, and Jim, you could send that out to the whole committee after the fact.
Plan to, yes.
Then we could have it now, after the meeting. Any other questions on this line? Okay, Shelley?
Again, not so much of a question, but more just kind of a reflection back in that I think that that Ellen came and provided the annual report, I think in October of this last year, and so that if you wanted to kind of like key into which one should I watch, if I go back on the city's YouTube channel, I think that October is probably just a good, from my memory, that would be a good place to start to look at that. And then I also just wanted to reflect back on the strategic plan for the city. Is RAIN, and working with RAIN was something that was actually specifically called out as one of our strategic initiatives. And so, again, from my humble perspective, and I'm certainly not the expert on this, but I think that we are getting a good value of that $28,000 in terms of economic growth, in particular for small businesses within our community. But again, I am not the expert on kind of best bang for the buck. That's just my own personal reflection.
Awesome, thank you. I was mostly asking for all of us, since that was a good question that was brought up by the committee member, Derek.
Councilor Castillo?
I will provide a little feedback on this. As my recollection, the rain came about because we not have a economic development person, but it didn't really work out. So we decided to go with rain as a way to assist some economic development. But it's my recollection that the last report, I walked away from that just really kind of unsure whether Creswell is getting the bang for his buck for the 28,000. So that's just a little feedback.
Councilor Holt?
I just want to say thank you for saying that. I felt that way as well, and so I think that's important. I think it's going to be an important conversation for us to have in the future.
All right, Jim?
The next question was, is the completion of the second floor at City Hall in our strategic plan? If not, include another plan the city has in place. I answered yes, just because the completion of the space is needed for the employee that will occupy it. And the employee that was specifically called out in the strategic plan is an economic development coordinator. And I think this is going to be somebody who works for the city, who reports to the city directly, reports to the city manager. And we tried this in the past. We have tried economic development coordinator in the past. I'm glad somebody brought that up. At the time, we were still just in the early planning phases of what our infrastructure to even support businesses would look like. I think we're a lot further along now in that. We have the urban renewal area that looks pretty promising if we can get some more development in there. We also have to deal with this wastewater, so I think the person would probably get harangued into helping with the wastewater solution too, because we would need somebody to help lift a lot of reporting and applications as well for that in the beginning. And I just want to note that we have split offices. We split the largest office downstairs into two offices a few years back to accommodate the building permit technician, and that was We had to have an in-house person there because the DOJ decided that we could no longer use a third-party service provider. We also brought in a code officer to work in City Hall. And we converted the downstairs conference room into an office to accommodate that. So we're down a conference room. So it wasn't specifically called out in the strategic plan, but I think it's necessary to execute the hiring of the new staff person and giving them the space they need to be successful.
Councilor Holt.
How many small cities our size, not 5,700 people, but 2,000 households, hire an economic development coordinator?
That's a good question.
I'd love to know that.
Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that question either.
Councilor Dukes.
Question I have is, I know I've been hearing that the fire department right back here is getting redone. Is this building going to have any changes outside construction at all during this?
Not the building itself. We are going to have to figure out parking because they are going to take over the parking lot where everybody parks currently. But I think where their building is may just be repurposed for a city parking lot.
Thank you.
Joshua.
Just checking on the current Q&A that we're on with the second floor City Hall related expansion. What is you said currently there are offices that are being shared. Approximately what square footage of those offices that are being shared?
I want to say they're no bigger than 10 by 10, if that. I know I have a pretty small office.
So 100 square feet for two people is in the current condition?
No, the shared space actually has a divider in it, so
Okay.
it would be individual 10 by 10s.
Is there anything in the state of Oregon that specifies the amount of required office space for city employees?
That I'm not sure of. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard that, so
Question.
there very well may be, but I've never ran across it.
So what's the approximate square footage of the expansion that we're considering, and approximately how many offices could we fit in there with employees?
I don't know the answer to the second one. The first one is it's half of the building that is open space, so that's what's available.
Probably about the size of this
Half
room.
of the upstairs.
Half of the upstairs building. Right.
So this is quite large. We're talking about quite a lot of projection moving forward, the amount of FTE requirements over the next few decades. Is this the idea?
Yeah, and as we get further on in the questions, there's a little bit about the layout in there as well. But
Okay.
yeah, it would be a lot of space for one FTE.
Okay, thank you.
So a question I have, the second floor, have we ever finished the conference room? Because my understanding was we never put a ceiling in there and we don't have great lighting in there. So is that part of the project as well that needs to be completed?
Yes, yeah, that'll be part of it as well. It was never finished. One of the things that, in fact, if anything, that's the one thing that does need to get finished. If you're sitting in there in the conference room, you hear the buzzing up above your head while you're trying to listen or you're trying to speak in that room. It's the HVAC and the lighting too is really poor. So it's just a simple drop ceiling would not only block out the sound from the HVAC, but also reflect the light in that room. So it would be much better for holding meetings in it. And I think Cliff did a inquiry on that, and it was below 10,000. Well below that.
Yeah, I had bids. The drop ceiling was around 8, and the electrical, you're putting me on the spot, but I think it was 6 or 7 for the lighting.
Sorry, Cliff.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Just a question about, just a question about that, because you were talking about if you're phasing, the prevailing wage might come into play, and that seems like it might be a phase. So it also is critical that it gets done at the same time as the rest of the project, I would assume.
It would put us in a better, pardon the pun, but better light, yeah.
Because as I heard the bid for 10,000 to do that, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, if you're gonna have to go back and redo prevailing wages and those kind of things.
Yeah, if we were gonna have to do prevailing wages for the whole thing, we'd do it all at once. Yeah. That individually, though, I think is a phase that we could, stand behind to say that we were just doing this to complete this
As a
part of the building.
separate project.
Yeah.
So because it's been one project that's been discussed, we got some prices on it, and it would come from the same funds, but it's clearly a different project than the redevelopment of the front, so dividing that up into pieces was kind of the more challenging question.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, next question, which is related.
There was a question about being out of office space, and when do we anticipate needing more space? We're out of office space, but as soon as we hire another staff member, we're gonna need the space. There was also, when we looked at the plans, because there were initial plans for this building to be built all at once, and the initial plans had a small kitchenette basically out these doors and through the doors that go into the unfinished part. There was a small kitchenette back there to provide the water and food that would be brought into the council chambers for meetings, rather than taking them by cart down the elevator and through the front. So that's also part of it. There's also a small conference room that was going to be built in this area as well. So it wouldn't be just office space, there would be a conference area. That way, if somebody's already using the larger conference room and you've got a meeting with a vendor, currently we have those meetings either in the lobby area, there's a few seats up there, or we go into our individual offices. Doesn't always work if there's 2 or 3 people that show up. For individual meetings, it's not that bad, but it would also add another conference room in City Hall. As far as I think I'm getting to the next
Why
question.
don't you go ahead and cover the last two, since they're all on the same subject.
Yeah, so where the public funds coming from to complete the second floor, from the 25-26 budget or from previous year's budgets. There've been accumulation of previous year's transfers that were reserved for completion of City Hall, along with investment earnings on those funds. In the years prior to 2017, the state shared revenues were transferred into the capital improvement reserve fund each year. So that was one way the city used those funds in the past. In fiscal year 18-19 capital improvement plan, the completion of the second floor was projected in fiscal year 19-20 with transfers from the general fund. Subsequent fiscal years budgets followed that, but as we know, we had an architect come in and look at the plans and kind of give us a refresh on those. And we had a cost estimate, and it was just ballpark, $300,000. And that included all the mechanical work to install the rooftop HVAC unit and the overall, to tie in the overall system and then furnish it. We had kind of this open floor plan so that we didn't have to put the money into building office spaces, but just had like cubicle land. So to speak. But as we know, the pandemic pushed all that back, and to your point, Councilor Holt, people started working from home, and it didn't seem like we needed the office space then.
Well, and our work from home policy dictates that it's supposed to be under special circumstances, not just a regular thing, correct?
I
I believe so, because we helped write that policy. Yeah, So I feel like, yeah, there needs to be a discussion about that.
Then there was a question about what was planned what is planned for the second floor completion. Office space, workspace, another bathroom. We did complete the second bathroom upstairs. With all the people that are here today, it was a challenge to have one restroom, especially when you get one, often you just get one break during the meeting. And so we added a second restroom. The architectural plans include some cubicle space, as I mentioned, desk chairs, a small conference room, and then the kitchenette with a full-size refrigerator. And again, the cost included the mechanical installation and electrical, the expansion of the existing HVAC system. It included the furnishing and equipment. And again, this is a budget not to exceed. And hopefully we can get it below the estimated once we receive actual bids for the project.
Okay, questions on these last couple items you've covered? Oh, you folks who haven't spoken or asked any questions, have anything you're thinking? Josh?
I did have an item that didn't make the Q&A, but I can wait until this is completed to make sure that everybody gets all their questions asked.
Thank you. Okay, I had a couple questions, and I'll give all the rest of you time to think if you have a question. So this was originally to be done in 2019-20, and in 2019 we had a bid for $300,000. So in this current budget, are we projecting $320,000? Is that the number I remember? In the present budget that we have before us?
It's actually less than that because we do have the drop ceiling over on this side. I want to say it's 310. I don't have it.
I know you covered it in our budget before, and I didn't bring my summary with me.
Yeah, because we do have the drop ceiling portion of it that has to be done. That's 9,000.
Okay, so you're thinking it's $310,000 is in this budget. So my follow-up question is, where are those funds sitting right now? Do we have $310,000 that we have set aside in reserve funds over the last 5-6 years that we've just been waiting until the right time to do this project?
Yeah, they're sitting in the capital improvement fund on page 80. Opening
budget?
Yeah, page 80 of the budget. Opening fund balance is projected to be $330,571. Which would leave us, if we spent the entire 329, it would leave us with just under $9,000 left in reserves for future projects. Yeah.
So these are funds that have been continuously set aside year after year, knowing this project was going to be done at some point, and they're in the capital reserve funds, and we've already pushed it 6 years down the road. Okay, those are my questions, observations. Mr. Isaacson.
Just follow-up question. Obviously, there's been some escalation since then. Where would those funds come from? Would they be from another reserve somewhere? If, say, the project now costs $380,000 or something, I mean, because things have gone up since 2019.
Yeah, I don't know where we get the additional funding. If it was another 80,000, it would probably have to get pushed back a year. If it came down to that, there'd be another 50.
Or you could scale the project as well.
We could scale the project. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that would be a real concern.
Yeah, because, we talked about CPIs and all those things, and everything has been increasing. It just seems like, especially material costs and everything, when we went through COVID, it came down, but didn't go back to those old prices pre-COVID. So, which drives construction costs up and labor costs, all those things because of.
Yeah, that's a good point. I am maybe a little hopeful that we've had some bids coming recently, and then construction does seem to be going back down. And I think the federal money is kind of drying up, so it's making construction companies get more competitive, sharpen their pencils. Yeah.
Thank you.
Timber prices have fallen a lot, and they're probably the same price, if not lower than they were 2019. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, Councilor Castillo?
What, define scale the project?
What's that?
Scale the project, you said we scaled the project.
You
What's
could
that?
not go forward with kitchenette, and take that out of the project at this time. There's different pieces you could potentially not go forward with without compromising the ability to do that in a future year, so.
Thank you.
Okay, Joshua?
During our last budget committee meeting, we had discussed the cloud assets that had moved, and we were able to get an answer for that on if they were depreciating or capitalized.
Yeah, so they will be capitalized and depreciated, but not on the budgetary basis. They'll be on the full accrual basis of accounting.
So the server and all of the network infrastructure that's taking place in a virtual setting, let's say in a cloud setting, is now being moved into being services. They're no longer physical assets that you are maintaining even in a virtual space, correct?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Joshua, was that your additional question?
Right.
All right. So we've concluded all of these questions. So now the floor is open, council, under item number 5 for discussion of the proposed 2025-26 budget. And I'm going to encourage, if you have an item you want to discuss, bring that forward, and then let's talk about that item, and then continue to move along. If there's no discussion, then we will move to item number 6, which is a motion to approve the 2025-26 budget as presented. I'm entertaining a motion to approve the 2025-26 budget. Councilor Castillo.
Excuse me, Dave, I do have, I think this may be the appropriate time. If I wanted to amend the request for the the museum.
Yes.
I would need to do that now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would like to make a motion to up that amount to $15,000.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to increase the contribution to the Creswell Historical by $5,000. Jim, we're going to go to you.
I just had a question on that. If we increase it, because the budget is balanced, it has to come out of something else in the budget?
So let's turn to the page that you're referring to. We can all be looking. Is this page 49?
Correct.
Page 49. Jim, direct us where you want us to look.
So that
Okay, so we're going to hold your question until Jim can direct us there.
On 49, under community contributions, it's about halfway down the page under materials and services, general culture and recreation. It's proposed at $34,250, and we want to, there was a motion to raise that to $39,250, so to essentially increase that $5,000.
I'm sorry, where?
Page 49, under the column materials and services, under community contributions.
Yeah.
No, right in front of me, thank you.
So, to keep the budget balance, we'd have to move $5,000 from somewhere else in the budget.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes, Stacy?
Well, you've made a motion, correct? Nobody seconded it, so
Hasn't been seconded yet.
I'll second his motion. Well, I can't do that. Actually, I take that back.
Okay, so Jim is
What I'd
trying-
like to do is amend his motion, and
Well, unless, there's only.
there has to be a second for
There
that.
has to be a second.
And my idea is to amend it, and I agree, adding 5,000, but I would like to recommend reducing 5,000 from rain.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, and so it has not been seconded yet. And Jim, your clarification was, it has to somehow balance out.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna first of all see, is there a second, is there a second on the original motion?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, and we have a second, and the motion is to increase by $5,000 the amount given to the Historical Society, to the museum, and it would add 5,000 to community contributions. All right, so we have a motion and a second. So now we're open for discussion or amendment. Counselor Holt.
I motion to amend Councilor Castillo's amendment to increase the contribution to the Historical Society by $5,000 and reduce the contribution to RAIN by $5,000 so that we can balance our budget.
So first a question, is RAIN in this budget item, cultural?
It's in 47, which is part of their departments in the general fund. The general fund balances in total. So, yeah, it's still in the same fund, and so that would still balance the budget for general fund.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have an amendment on the floor to take the $5,000 from the contribution to RAIN. Is there a second? Councilor Clark? Kent?
Yes, I second that motion, that amendment to the
Okay.
original motion.
All right, so now we have discussion of the amendment. Discussion of the amended motion. Derek?
So just clarification, I mean, I asked earlier about the contract renewal. Is that contract a package? Is it a scalable package? Is it, I mean, can you reduce that $28,000 by 5,000 and do they have a different level of services, or is it just for the size of this city and for this organization, this is what it costs, or can it be negotiated? That's why I'm wondering if they're flexible in pulling that money from there.
Give me just a moment. I'm looking to see if I can pull the contract up on the server.
Extra, would this be a good time for a 5-minute recess?
Might be a great time for.
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Yes. Caitlin?
Oh, just a side question. I have the report from rain last year. Is it okay if I go ahead and send that out to everybody so you guys have it and you guys can review that later?
Is there anything in that, we're taking?
We're taking 5 minutes, right?
5-minute
Yeah, sorry.
recess.
Right.
Anything on that agenda?
Sorry, it's a great question, I want to know. Yeah, I think it's negotiated every year, but I want to make sure.
Not
I can. Oh, because I have my. So technically on these two screens. I will look at the agenda because it looks like it was in September.
Robert has it on 49, so it is 49.
Rain's on 47. Under economic and improvement development, way towards the bottom.
Thank you.
Just cause, yeah, well, not moved, but they would. And then you get, as a resolution or something that we vote on to do that. I think that's how it.
Because this and
Yes. I was gonna ask Jim, but he's asked, so, and he's busy right now.
Yeah.
Well, just how
Look at the minutes for that meeting.
where we would get, say we want to get rain later on. We really need to get rain 28,000, but it's not in the budget. Where would we get that money from? And I know we can't, we just have to, they would make.
We just go downstairs, since we got a break.
Yeah. Yeah, grab it, you got it.
What's appropriate? Goldenrod binders. Files.
Yes.
Country stuff.
On the front side when you walk in.
Not necessarily.
Oh,
It's like we've, we've, say for example.
That's what he was asking.
It wasn't, it wasn't in the budget.
I would
Bought
try
a bunch of these because we needed
just to
it.
be safe.
Go ahead and
Discretion is
did everything we needed to do later to help. So
Those were budgeted.
No, not the first time around.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about
Yeah,
those ones.
yeah,
Those
no,
ones
yeah,
were budgeted.
no, not the first time around. I'm just trying to use it as an example that.
Isn't there a discretionary amount in the general fund that
Yes,
make that
yes.
change with?
And I think there's a certain amount, and it has to come back to the budget committee.
I'm just gonna send it out
So the budget
on
committee would
the
have to be.
latest email.
Yeah, which has never happened in my time.
I thought we just set that limit, didn't we do like 50,000 for one department head, and then Spencer had like 100,000?
That was for their spending, but there is also like a line,
That is probably somewhere in the top.
yeah, if it was a bit, I think it's over 10 grand or something like that, then.
Okay, so we put a little money, or is it like a certain percentage?
I like that. I like.
I know that. My thought process is.
Does anybody else
do
need
this,
a
balance the budget,
water?
and deal with the contractual thing. It's gonna come up. We have to renew the contract.
Well, I've got
I'd like
one
to
here, but I'm
dig into that a
taking,
little bit
I've
more.
already down one.
I wasn't really for it until she mentioned the rain, I was like,
Yeah, I'm not-
I'm
yeah.
thinking behind that now.
Well, it seems like
good with
that's a
it.
value statement about rain too.
Well,
The levee's great, but I've always thought, like, I don't see the point.
I've had,
I don't know
I've
if
had
we're making money to read it.
three
I don't know how much it's
people,
helping.
I've had 3 people in town that I referred them to. They
Whenever she
all
presented
come
that,
back
I
and
just
said,
didn't get how she wanted
no, I don't remember.
it. was a lot, I think she went on a little lengthy, you know, lost me, I'm still confused on what you really do. I had to go back and reread her actual handout.
You need something. Entrepreneurs.
Before trying to get right.
Help, a resource, they need a resource.
So is that a target that is so, or is it a target that they're drawing money from outside to Creswell? And they're encouraging entrepreneurship from outside of the city to invest here?
I think they're, I don't know if I've heard,
Good
but
to-
they're,
Good
they're,
to see the contract and understand what the.
yeah, they're a resource to, it's not like they're soliciting businesses or encouraging. They're a resource to, like, how did she put it? How to help companies get their product on the shelf. They can help.
So it is about business help.
Yes,
kind of
yes,
Like
yes.
SBA or something.
Yes,
like that.
to economic development. They're supposed to assist them, a resource. Oh, I need help. How do I do a website? They can help. Get my product on, you know. So that's the way it was explained.
No, I'm just about to, sorry.
I was like,
But that-
looking forward to it. I was thinking, I wonder.
Yeah.
Right, so then oh, no, I'm getting ready to send it right now.
It feels like some of the job of Chamber of Commerce too, you know, like, it really, I don't know, it seems like it's divided, like, it seems like a Chamber of Commerce thing, which they can have some more money.
No, she's still in Australia.
Yeah,
that's,
I feel like that's their job, is to, you know, not only plan a party, but and get more people to come in here. It seems like we're splitting up You said return on investment, best bang for our buck, that's why I don't think we've had much.
I would agree that that's.
Did anybody say like, hey, Ray, help me do this? Ray, it'd be nice.
5 minutes?
So does,
I should have been doing that.
so does that?
You got two more.
Okay, I'm not a very good vice chair. This is why I
You'll
voted
do
no for
better next time,
myself.
I promise. No, they're gonna need more, because.
You just need more experience, you just haven't done it
I
long.
do.
We'll work on that. It's gonna be coming back. And they're still trying to get grants and reason to scale it back. It's not, my question would be, is that gonna be enough?
You know, I'd be able to speak to that.
Okay, we're gonna reconvene. We will not be making any decisions this afternoon. All right, we are reconvening. And Jim, you were looking for some information on the rain contract, right?
Yeah, I went ahead and pulled the contract, I've read through it, I'm gonna have Spencer speak to it, this is somebody who direct reports to the city manager, so I'll have Spencer.
Yeah, so a contract was signed in March 28th, 2024 with Rain. And the statement here says, through this MOU, Creswell agrees to provide $28,000 per fiscal year, beginning 24-25, and if appropriated, which is a key term, through the annual budget process for a total of $140,000 between the fiscal years of 2024 through 2029. These funds will be allocated to partially fund a venture catalyst will connect Creswell entrepreneurs and innovators to support and resources with the goal of creating inclusive culture and entrepreneurship through ecosystem building, is what the paragraph says. So it's subject to appropriations, but there is an agreement that covers a 5-year period between the city and Rain.
By subject to appropriations.
Subject to appropriations.
Does it have to reach that amount?
I would say, since it says subject to appropriations, I think that gives some latitude on what the council appropriates on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Is there an escape clause in that, or?
There's no warranty, so.
Because it's a MOU, it's not it seems to me that if there's a certain thing that either party can't see eye to eye on, you know, right, because any contract, if they're not performing to a degree, and that's the question, are we getting the return on investment? And we're looking out here for spending, what did it say, $90,000 or something, or was that one?
Total.
Yeah, so, and it seems like if we're not getting the performance on the MOU, you should be able to, there should be an escape clause in that that says that either party.
I think it really falls in the appropriations end, is the.
How legally binding is that MOU? That's, I guess.
Yeah, that's a question
Because it's
that I probably can't
usually
answer.
performance tied to an MOU.
Yeah, that I can't answer right at this moment. I would say if the amendment passes and there's a reduction in this amount, I'm sure there'll be some discussions between Rain and the city to kind of sort through what this agreement means. And, you know, it's always something, the city retains a contingency, you know, that if there was a legal issue in doing that, you know, the general fund contingency has funds available to meet those kinds of things, but I don't see why you can't, as a budget committee, you know, consider the motion, the amendment that's been made, so.
Joshua.
Just wanted to see if you guys knew that it had been emailed out, the last report, to our emails, if we wanted to review that while making a decision. Looks to me like there are about 2 attendees, mostly Zoom sessions, joining a lot of these reports.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and we have an amended motion as well. Any further discussion of the amended motion? Anyone? All right, so I have a comment I want to make. I like the idea of an additional $5,000. I do not like the idea of taking it from Rain for a couple of reasons. One of them was the comment was made earlier, I believe by one of our counselors, that the Rain contract, this is something the council needs to look into, which I agree. I don't think tonight's the night for the council to look into it. Tonight we're voting on a budget. I do agree that the council should take a deeper look at Rain, whether the council wants to continue that relationship. So I feel it's premature tonight for us to, in a sense, take $5,000 from Rain's budget that we had agreed to at one point. It's really, I think, a policy matter for council to weigh in on. And it feels like we're pulling the rug out from under someone who's been doing the work, has an agreement, and we're going to take $5,000 away because we'd like to be more generous with the museum. I don't have a problem with being generous with the museum. I have a problem with taking it away from Rain. And I think that the place for this discussion is with the council as a policy matter. So that's my thought. Councilor Castillo?
And here was my thinking on this, and Spencer already answered it. My thought process is that we balance the budget as this, we move on, and when we come to the contractual agreement, we can always pull funds from the general language he used and give them their $3,000. Correct?
$5,000.
So $5,000, correct? So
that's an option council would have.
Yes, so we do have discretion later on during contract time to figure this out. Or I'm open to admit, and maybe Jim is the guy to answer this, where would you suggest we pull that $5,000 from?
Christina?
Would it be appropriate to, sorry, I just lost it. The tourism grant, the Lane County Tourism Grant, are all of those funds appropriated to anything in the budget?
We do have a contractual agreement with our Chamber of Commerce, and they use those funds to put on the 4th of July and the Christmas, or the parade and.
100% of them?
Not 100% of it. There is a portion of it. There is a portion of it that the city uses for like advertising to get people to come here for like the duck games. We advertise as a regional area where somebody could stay and watch and go to the duck games. For example, I think it's about 10% of, so it'd be about $6,000. rough ballpark, about $6,000 that the city would use. Now, it has to be tourism related, that's the stipulation.
Okay,
Well, that's what, I mean, the museum, it seems like it fits under that heading is where I'm getting, where I'm going, is they attract more admission to the museum. To me, it makes sense that we would pull from that fund to preserve the council's discussion about rain and still get the museum the funds, the additional funds for the amendment.
Yeah, if that were the case, I wouldn't adjust community contributions. We would just spend the extra $5,000 directly from tourism in this scenario.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Any other discussion of this before we vote on the amended motion? Stacy, Shelley.
It's okay, very similar names. And so as I think about the discussion, or as I think about the amendment, one of the things I think about is for rain, that is something that, even if we haven't contractually agreed to the amount, I do think that we have an MOU, or a memorandum of understanding that is on file in terms of just kind of anticipatory revenue for rain. And so what I am thinking is that as we look at the Garden Lake Bridge amount that we have potentially allocated, that's $25,000 potentially allocated, that hasn't been promised, that's an area that we're ballparking, right, what that amount might be. And so it might, so if I were to vote no on the amendment, I would be very supportive of an additional amendment around reallocating the Garden Lake Park Bridge design.
Councilor Holt?
I just want to reiterate that I totally support my amendment. I think that it is appropriate for the Budget Committee to make these decisions regardless if council has had another discussion or not, or wants to talk about a future discussion that may or may not ever happen. So I'm fully in support of my amendment, so thank you.
So can I ask clarification, Shelley, where are you suggesting that the funds could come from?
Yeah, so it's.
And what page and what line item?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I were thinking about it, and again, this is so discussion for the amendment. So on page 49 of the budget, underneath towards the end, there's capital outlay. And the last line item under that capital outlay subsection is $25,000. And that is, I believe that is earmarked for a design for the bridge in Garden Lake Park. We have not gone out to bid on that, and so we don't know that it is $25,000. That was an estimate, and so as I think about places that we might be able to shift some monies around, that might be an area where we haven't promised or have a memorandum of understanding in place.
My question to Jim, can we shift funds from here to a different page?
Yeah, within the general fund, yes.
Okay, all right. Joshua?
Quick question on page 47, under the administrative requirements. There is the salary study for $20,000. Is that also an estimate?
That's an estimate, yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have an amendment on the floor. The amendment can be amended. And I move that we amend the amendment to state that we would increase $5,000 to the museum and take $5,000 from the Garden Lake Park engineer estimate, page 49, shifting funds. So there's an amended motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Morris seconds the motion? All right. We have an amended motion on the floor. Discussion. Councilor Holt.
what happens if we take money from, we were told in the last meeting that that $25,000 was an estimate just for the engineering. How, and I felt that you guys were pretty confident in that amount. So if we remove money from that, where is that money coming from later? Because obviously, if the job comes in at $25,000, we're gonna have to find the other $5K.
That's a good question. If it were to come in at 25,000, we would have to
Spend more money.
spend more money. We'd
Yeah.
have to go to contingency, and that would be coming to the council for a budget adjustment at that time. Yeah.
In which we could say no and just kill the whole project. It seems kind of risky. Okay.
Mayor Smith.
I'm all for taking it from Rain. I'm all for the original amendment. I'd rather, it makes more sense. Joshua brought it up. There's only 2 people on a Zoom meeting. That's enough proof for my hesitation for the last couple of years. So I move that we can, I would like to second Councilor Holt's motion.
Oh, it's already been seconded.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, just making sure, because I didn't know if I heard a second. So I would like to continue with the movement from Rain. We obviously have the ability. It's all about appropriation. We're within our legal right, and that one makes the most sense right now to balance the budget and move forward.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the amendment, and so since you're not changing the amendment to the amendment, we have to vote on the amendment to the amendment first. Then if it fails, then we'll go back to the amended motion. Any further discussion on the amended amendment?
Councilor Holt.
No.
Councilor Castillo.
No, we have to vote on hers.
Yeah, his first. Councilor Castillo's first.
No.
No, wait, we
Mine
have
first.
to vote on
So we've had 3.
Shelley's first.
No, we vote on the motion that was amended and amended.
Yeah.
Or am I
You
amended?
have to vote backwards now, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, I'm right about this.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's taking the 5,000 from the bridge instead of,
So Dave's motion first,
Yep.
then
Yeah.
Stacy's, then Alonzo's.
No.
Right?
Yes.
No, wait.
yes. Dave's motion first, Stacy's second,
And
and
then
then
Alonzo's
the
last.
actual
Okay.
motion,
Yeah.
which will be changed by whatever happens between these two motions.
That's what I understand, okay. There's a
Any
lot of
further
motion.
discussion?
There's a lot of motioning.
Okay, so we are voting, we have an amendment to the amended motion, and the motion is that we add $5,000 to the contribution to the museum and take that money from the $25,000 that's allocated towards the engineering study on the bridge. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Count 7.
All those opposed, same sign.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I count 7.
All right, so
motion
the
fails.
motion dies. The motion does not carry because it's a tie vote. So now we go back to, we are voting on any further discussion of the amendment that Councilor Holt brought forward, which is that we take $5,000 additional contribution to the museum and that the money be removed from the portion given to Rain. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All those opposed, same sign.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Motion carries. 9-5 vote. Did you get that down, Caitlin? Okay, so then that takes care of the motion by Alonzo.
No, now you got to vote on Alonzo's. That was an amendment to Alonzo's original motion. So now you
But that's what we voted on. We've already voted on the motion to give the $5,000 and take it from Rain.
My amendment included his
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
it covered
recommendation.
everything.
I included his recommendation,
As
yes,
long as
sir.
everyone agrees, I'm good.
Yeah. I made
Okay.
sure I worded it that it did both.
It was a lot to
Yes.
process.
So to summarize, we're contributing $5,000 additional to the museum and removing that from the allocation to Rain.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Further discussion about the budget before we move to vote to approve the budget. All right. Seeing none, I am entertaining a motion to approve the 2025-26 fiscal year budget as it has been amended. Councilor Castillo.
I'll make a motion to approve the 25 to 26 City of Creswell budget as amended.
Do we have a second? Second from Councilor Kent. All right, any further discussion? All right, Budget Committee will vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a 12-2 vote. Now we move to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the motion to approve taxes. This is to approve taxes for the 2025-26 fiscal year at the rate of $2.6705 per $1,000 of assessed value for operating purposes in the general fund to be certified by the tax assessor. So we begin with any discussion of this item. And we will entertain a motion. We can have discussion once the motion has been made and seconded. Is there a motion on the floor? Councilor Morris.
I make a motion to approve taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year at the rate of $2.6705 per $1,000 of assessed value for operating purposes in the general fund to be certified by the tax assessor.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second from Joshua. I always forget your last name.
Johnson.
Joshua Johnson. Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion of this vote? All right, committee will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you for another great year. How's that, huh?
I'll get that in.
Was the wrong budget.
What's that?
I don't know what that.
Budget.
It's all gonna work out. We'll figure it out. They said
I'll see you in some
opportunity to get more money.
I'll probably see you in some.
It's a little convoluted, but you gotta take care of the part, right? I think.
No, I think this will probably create some dialogue.
Maybe on the way out, or you
So Josh and I were talking about putting those out with glitter and LED lights.
Have them, just to highlight it a little bit.
Yeah.
For next year, since we're done with this one, I talked to Jim, I want to get everybody the same ones, so it all matches the same. And uniforms.